The Nevis Animal Speak recently intervened in a situation where some dogs and puppies were in need of medical attention after their owner unfortunately passed away. We now welcome Janice Jenson, founder and executive director of the Nevis Animal Speak, for the segment of Motivating Factor. Good morning, Janice, and welcome again to GMSKN.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be back, and really appreciate you having us on today.
You're very welcome. So to begin the conversation, we really want to know, because this is quite a touching story, I would think. How did Nevis Animal Speak find out about the condition of the dogs living on the property after their owner sadly passed?
So we had known of Mansa's passing. He was kind of a high-profile case where he had touched the lives of a lot of people. He had been a farmer and very much had been active in the world of agriculture and farming and creating sustainability. And one of the things everybody knew is that Mansa loved his dogs. He always had dogs. He had a lot of dogs. So when he passed, there was a lot of chatter, right, about the dogs on social media. We were aware of it, but it wasn't until February 18th that we got a direct communication saying, hey, there are problems. The dogs are, right, probably not being managed. There are puppies involved. There was a concern for their health and the well-being. So we reached out to the family and we said, look, we want to help. How can we help? These are our suggestions. So we were going to meet the family the next day in the afternoon, kind of assess the situation and see how we could help. And unfortunately, before we had a chance to get there the next day, one of the puppies had wandered out into the street and had been hit and killed by a vehicle. Wow. So we communicated again with the family and said, look, if you're okay with us going on property on our own, we'll assess the situation and then we can come up with a plan. But we'd like to at least take the remaining puppies and put them in a safe situation until the family could, manage the animals and we come up with a long-term plan. So that's how it all started.
Okay. So Janice, is this something that Nevis Animal Speak normally do?
So our mission is that no dog or cat, homed or stray, will go without necessary medical care. As a charity, both here in the Federation, as well as we are registered as what is called a 501c3 in the United States, which holds us to a very high level of expectation and transparency, not just from a financial side, but how we run the business as a whole. We, like I said, Mansa was a high-profile case, but we are doing this type of intervention and support on a regular basis. I mean, I dare to say, daily, but we never know what's going to come in through the door. And weekly, we are, helping and supporting and intervening to uphold the mission. I think it is critically important to say we are not a shelter. We are not a rescue agency, but we can support at least medically the animals. And we have a fairly large network where through social media and through our volunteers, when there's an urgent need, we can communicate and say, hey, if anybody is able to foster or adopt, if that need is there as well. And then, of course, in the case of Mansa and his family, we were able to at least take the puppies temporarily. And then we reached out to the community, both locally and internationally, because, right, we are not, as we know, you're communicating internationally right now. We have a fairly wide group that we reach, and we said we have an amount that we need to have donated. We want to spay and neuter all of the remaining dogs with the agreement of the family. This was their request. And on Saturday, this coming Saturday, we're holding an in-house, what we're calling Mansa's Day, where we are doing a surgery off our regular surgery day. Usually we do our spays and neuters on Thursday. We raised enough money to get all of the dogs, the remaining dogs and puppies, spayed and neutered, to then be returned to the family because they love the dogs. They are going to be taking over the property and continuing on, where Mansa left off, where their father left off. So this intervention has helped medically treat. Nevis Animal Speak donated dog food, flea and tick meds, deworming, health checks, everything that we could donate on our side, we did. And then we're just looking to cover the costs of the surgery. So actually not just again in Mansa's case, but our clinic as a charity, all of our medical is at or below cost. So when people say, you're a charity, you should be doing everything for free. We do a lot for free, but we also need to be able to be sustainable. So we just cover our costs, and sometimes not that, but in certain situations, right? If we can intervene and support and help, that's what we do.
All right. So Janice, you were looking initially to raise about 1,500 EC dollars for the surgeries, if I'm not mistaken. And you said that the additional amount would go into a fund to help continue to feed and give treatment to the dog. So listening to you, you've already raised that $1,500, or is there still room for additional donations?
So there's always room for additional donations because Mansa's family and this situation is one of many, many, many. Before our conversation this morning, I spent about 2.5 hours responding to emails from people who said, I found a stray dog, it's friendly, but it's skinny and it's dying and it's got skin problems, or it's missing an eye, or it looks like it has a broken leg. Again, we're managing both homed and stray cases. So we raised the 1,500, and Nevis Animal Speak said to the family, until they are ready to take over, hopefully that'll be in the next few weeks. We're helping to support and manage their pack because it was so large. They're by the road, and we're trying to give them time to, stabilize their lives and their family, and that family includes the dogs. So yes, we raised enough money for the surgeries. Yay! And then we'll continue to support them for the rest.
All right, that's great. It's definitely not easy with 7 dogs. I mean, that's the total that we have.
No. And the interesting thing is many of these puppies and what was going on was not coming from within their own pack. There are people that in the area that let their dogs roam, and if they are what we call intact, they have not been spayed and neutered, and they have the ability to be making puppies. That's what they're doing. Most people don't know this, but a male dog can smell a female in heat up to 5 miles away, which means those males are not just smelling one female, they're smelling every female in heat. And, for any guy and, girls, we've seen this too, like any human male that remembers, remember that first girl that they saw and they got that funny feeling and they kind of couldn't shut it down. And, of course, that's when your teacher calls you up to the board and says, hey, can you do something in front of a class? Right? It's very embarrassing. Well, when you can't shut that down, that's how we try to explain that's what's happening with these males. Okay. So for neutering, right, there is that aggression towards other males. They are not always kind when they meet the females, and they will do pretty much anything to get to them because they can't shut it down. So, one of the things that people say is, I don't want to get my dog neutered because I want the dog to have sex. your dog can still have sex. But what was the reason for having the dog in the first place? If it was to protect your property and be a part of the family in that way, if that dog is thinking about every single female that it is smelling within a 5-mile radius, and then add our beautiful West Indies breezes, they're focusing on not you and not what you want that dog to be there for, but how to get away just to make puppies on the other side. So that's one of the reasons that we highly recommend that people get their male dogs neutered. And then the females, same thing, right? They're attracting unwanted males. Puppies are expensive, and the surgery is way, way, way less expensive than having to pay for the health and well-being and feeding of pregnant dogs and puppies. So
absolutely correct.
Indeed. So, Janice, what is the plan going forward for these dogs after they have been returned? When I read an article before, is adoption an option?
So the family, and by the way, this is the best news. They want to keep the dogs, right? Okay. They want those dogs on property. They're going to be managing that property again. And so the dogs are very much a part of exactly why so many people have dogs. They want them to help to protect and manage the property. We always try to help focus on management of that, right? So that first step is we're going to get the dogs healthy. Then we're going to have them spayed and neutered so that there are not any more unwanted, unexpected, unplanned puppies. And then how do we keep them on property so that they aren't wandering off property and going onto the beaches and getting into trouble, because then that causes challenges in other ways, right? We're very sensitive to these animals that are roaming. Just because an animal is out there and has no collar doesn't mean it's a stray. The outcome is the same. If you have dogs that are wandering around that are not being managed and they're not being told this is what you should be doing, they're going to make their own decisions. And a lot of times that's getting into trouble, and that's getting into farmers' livestock, right? It's not always for the food. Sometimes it's for the sport of it. It's fun to chase things that are running away. And so we really want to stress that management of animals on a property is important so that they don't get into trouble and then cause trouble for the rest of the community. Because as we all know, nobody wants to ever say it out loud, but the backlash is pretty ugly when people plant poison to kill dogs. Maybe you're not getting the one that hurt the livestock, and it's not a sustainable option. But managing an overpopulation is actually, to that end, Nevis Animal Speak is holding a spay and neuter event April 7th through 10th. We are targeting to spay and neuter 300 animals in 4 days. This is no small feat, and we are working with a local team in-house, our international team. We've got 7 people flying in for this event, surgeons and nurses. We are working with the Ross student vets to kind of help the flow of medical support, because you can't do surgery on 300 animals in 4 days without a lot of help. So we've got about 150 volunteers planned for this event over that 4 days.